Welcome to Module 3, A Mindful Birth. First, Lesson 1. Let me give you a quick snapshot of what it is we're going to be looking at. In A Mindful Birth, Lesson 1, we're going to look at what is a biblical perspective of mindfulness. Then we're going to move on to familiarize you with some of the mental challenges that are particular to birth. And then I'm going to introduce you to an idea called hope-filled hyperfocus. So in Module 3, A Mindful Pregnancy and Birth, I'm going to lead you through what I call hope-filled hyperfocus. More on that to come. And then also something that I call divine imagination. This module will aid you in using the miraculous mind that God has given you to train your whole self towards relaxed calm. The content in this module is some of my absolute favorite, and I know that you're really going to be blessed by it and really encouraged, and you're just going to have a lot of fun learning some new things. You've heard it said, it's all in your head. Well, I do think that can be true, especially when it's all in your body. Sure, birth is a very physical event, but it's not just a physical event. We keep talking about this, right? We're hearing more and more every day in medical research about how great a role the cognitive process plays in tackling physically intense situations. But this is not a solely secular idea. In fact, I would say that once again, the world is discovering and science is exploring and articulating now what has always existed by God's marvelous design. And we're only uncovering pieces of it now. And so, though it's often associated with non-Christian philosophies today, many of the practices I reference in this course have been a familiar part of the reflective Christian life through all of history. So, if athletes and soldiers know that mental clarity as training for physical demand is helpful, then I say that we would do well to pay attention for birth preparation as well. Often, the battle of birth is lost in the heart and the mind well before it's lost physically. The best example I can think of this is one that birth professionals see all the time. You have a mom who is having a slow, long, and hard labor, but she's well prepared for this labor, and she's doing the work of labor with focus, with grace, and really matching the intensity of the work with hopefulness and focus. She's doing wonderful, and emotionally and mentally, she has both mental focus and emotional encouragement. 5 minutes later, a provider comes in and does a cervical exam and says something like, "You're making no progress at all," or "nothing has changed." Those are loaded phrases, and they hold all sorts of information within them, much more than simply, "There's not been more dilation." And the message that mom receives is, it's not working. Your body's not working. Something is failing you. God's design has broken down, and your hard work isn't accomplishing anything. So physically, nothing has changed as far as the amount of encouragement that she had and the work she was doing. The contractions haven't become more difficult in the past 5 minutes. But she has become emotionally discouraged and mentally has lost her focus, is very distracted and defeated. And at this point, in many ways, she has lost the battle of the work ahead of her, the race that she has to run. She feels as though there really is no other answer than to just simply sit on the sidelines and wait for someone to carry her over the finish line. It's the emotional discouragement and the mental distraction that are so destructive here, not simply the physiological information. This is what I want you to have tools to battle with. Birth is as much, if not more, a mental challenge as it is a physical challenge. And if the battle is waging in our minds, is there anything we can use to fight well for this focus that is so helpful to us in the journey of labor? I sincerely figure there is no greater opportunity than that of a Christ follower to have access to greatness to fill their minds with. So when I say mindfulness, what do I mean? I do not mean emptying your mind, as is commonly referred to as mindfulness, but instead filling it with truth to anchor your peace to God. Unlike many Eastern views of mindfulness that seek to empty the mind, Christians have the unique opportunity to fill our minds. Many views of mindfulness and meditation are anchored in self-sufficiency. You are, frankly, sitting with yourself in these models, and all of the resources you're accessing are within yourself alone. Therefore, you're often left with only two options. One, to attempt to empty your thoughts of your human weaknesses, disconnect from your humanity and your life. Or two, focus in on only the positive elements as you see being positive that you hope for as if they are guaranteed, and your thinking alone will hopefully bring them into a sort of reality. I am not talking about either of these things. Instead, a biblical view of mindfulness gives us the ability to recognize and discern between what is from God and fuels our peace versus what is not from God and steals our peace. Christians believe that to be fully human is to most clearly reflect the image of God as intended. We, of all people, do not have to run from our humanity, but can embrace it, even in its brokenness, as redeemed by Christ's work on the cross. We also have the unique stance of looking outside of our human frailty to a real and living God who's at work well beyond the confines of our human circumstances, who can define good, who can define beauty, who can define kindness to us. You can be sure. Your mind is a battleground for peace, but your God is more than able to supply you with adequate weapons. We see this in Philippians chapter 4. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. We want to use mindfulness and hope-filled hyper-focus to train our minds, to tell our bodies what to do, and in turn work alongside them in the birth process as designed by God. Which begs the question, what will we fill our minds with? Christian, what could I focus on when labor, or life for that matter, becomes distractingly difficult? Well, things that are right and pure and lovely and worthy of praise. Another way of saying it, so much truth, so much beauty, so much Christ exaltation that we're literally left overflowing with hopefulness in whatever journey the Lord has us on for birth. So again, we aren't talking about positive thinking or just think happy thoughts. And if you think them long enough and strong enough, then it will, guaranteed, it will happen. Remember, God is sovereign ruler of the world, not you, not me. This is good news for us. You can't trick him into giving you what you want. And if we could, we would deduce these practices that I'm speaking about down to just rubbing the genie's bottle, and we would deduce our God to a place of weakness where he's required to do what we want him to, even though we are greatly limited in our understanding. And we don't want or need a weak God, ladies. For birth, we need a strong God. And we have a strong God. But He's not only strong, He is good. He only gives good gifts to His children, even, perhaps especially, Scripture would remind us, slap dab in the center of what would often simply be considered wasted suffering. Also, as sovereign ruler and marvelous creator, He has made our bodies to work in conjunction with our thoughts. And many times that is done instinctively, without a lot of conscious thought. So my hope is that the peaceful practices will build into your instinctual subconscious a deep and reactive hopefulness in God. And that will foster peace for your whole body. Think of meditation as a tool to train your mind to aid your body in the labor process. Our mind goes through a cognitive process every time our bodies take an action. We know that. That's part of God's design. So let's work with that beautiful design, not against it. Imagine your thoughts in labor are like a pile of coats on the ground. I want you to picture this. There's very little order to this pile of coats, and if you needed to find one quickly, you're going to have a hard time. They've likely been haphazardly placed there, and finding the one you're looking for when you need it takes a lot of sorting and digging. I want you to picture that Christmas party you go to and you walk in and say, "Oh, where can I put my coat?" And someone says, "Oh, we're just keeping them on the spare guest bed in that room over there." And so you drop your pile amongst a pile of tons of other people's coats. And maybe you were the first to arrive. And so when you go to leave, it's at the bottom of tons of different colors, textures, piles and piles of coats. And to find yours, you're going to have to do a little work to find it. I want you to picture that as your thought life. So what I call peaceful picture hooks are techniques and imagery to prompt focused relaxation. So they're to give you something to hang your hopeful thoughts and relaxation on, where it can be quickly found and accessed when needed. So instead of a huge pile of coats where you have to dig to find the one you're looking for, my hope is that through the peaceful practices and some of these peaceful picture hooks, when someone says to you during labor, "Try to relax," you have a hook you can go to find that coat, to find that thought, if you will, and grab it quickly as a source of relaxation. I intend to give you a roadmap to hope-filled hyper-focus. And that's what this module, A Mindful Birth, is going to do. So let's get started and move on to lesson 2.